Okay, I'm gonna try to be as thorough as possible with this tutorial. Okay, so I have my EKS9 pitched to a F. This is what it sounds like. Alright, so let's get going. So, main thing that you want to do is EQ first, every single time. The EQ is what is going to be showing whatever points that you have, that's what's going to be resonating the most. So this is what I had. I kind of wanted to get the main harmonics, and then after Camel Crush slightly. Pretty much the tube is the only thing that's really intense, and I just brought that halfway, so it sounds like this now. Kind of bringing more of that low and the punch. Camel Fat, just to get that main talk that I needed. And I'm already starting to bring in the tail portion, the body of the tail with this. So these main three components are pretty much what's in a mold your kick. So any little tweaking that you do here is going to greatly affect your ultimate kick in the end. So now I'm just starting to bring down the frequencies that I don't like. Your what is it? Your distortions like to peak frequencies. So what I do, I just pretty much take off the frequencies that I hadn't pitched up brought up in the beginning. And yeah, so anything that isn't part of the harmonic, anything that isn't part of the specific notes frequency, I remove it immediately. So then after I do the same thing here, I'm starting to separate the low end from the mid. This is something that I noticed a lot of hardstyle kicks have. There's a clear distinction between the low end and the low mids. And starting to bring down this portion. The kick was starting to get a little too high end oriented, well, upper mid oriented, so I started bringing that down just to even out all the sounds, and it didn't really have much treble in it, so I kind of brought that up. So now it sounds like this. Okay, it's decent, not all there. I used homicide just to kind of bring out more of those high ends and the body of the tail, and it kind of gives like a more crunch metallic sound to the kick, which I personally like. Then after I used isotope ozone, it is a demo, so it's going to be cutting off, so I just added some minor distortions, nothing, no filter, no anything, just specifically messed with the mix. Brought this port up for dystropia, and I brought the mix down just so it's barely noticeable. So this is what it sounds like now. Okay, I bounced that out, and I separated the kick itself. So the kick I ended up making into 1, 2, and 3 separate portions. All these are just extra little additives to kind of bring out the talk more. So I ended up getting the punches, very simple. The body of the talk and the actual body of the kick itself, and the tail, which I should have just left on because it didn't really make any difference with the specific kick. What else? So I ended up doing that. I separated the punch and the talk, the external punches, After these main, the main talk that I ended up having, that I made, I routed out to this and just EQ'd the frequencies out, because since I am EQing and distorting the punch and the talk separately, there are going to be resonating frequencies that weren't there initially when the two sounds are separate. So I ended up removing that. So this is what it sounds like. Okay. And after I added the external, same thing, just has a little bit of a more high-end orientation to it. Same thing with that. Yeah. Okay, for this specific or not specifically this kick, but for any of my kicks, I like to separate the low, mid, and the high. Easily doing that with isotope ozone, bringing down the low end specifically at 200, and the rest I just kind of kept in its initial state. Then after I just cloned it, so this was the low, mid, after the high end was both these, and I just kind of messed with it. I know a lot of producers have been mentioning in their tutorials, which is actually very, very nice, the fact of the asymmetric distortion. So I used Wave Shaper to do this specifically, kind of like a clip distortion, but I don't really make it clip so much. So usually the pre is around this area. Yeah. Okay. So have that, and I'm starting to distort that. So this is the low end. Whoop. Okay. And specifically, I like to mess around with the polarity. Sometimes there's certain sounds that weren't so noticeable when it was flipped. So if I flip it, you know, I just kind of do that with every single sound just to see what which sounds resonate a little bit more, and see if I like it like that. So then after, let's move on to the mid. Yeah, so same thing, brought up some of the resonating frequencies, brought down a specific sound that I didn't like. Again, on the side, slightly, not too much, and once again brought up the resonating frequencies that I wanted and brought down the ones that I did not. Then after, ultimately I brought this down, pretty much so it is bandpassed, because once again, distortion does like to bring in some high end and low end. So yeah, so I'm just kind of molding, sculpting the kick. Once again, same thing, brought up some sounds that I wanted. On my side, a little bit more, bringing out those highs that weren't initially there in the original kick, and once again bringing down certain sounds that I didn't want. So putting it all together, I ended up putting all this into the body final, and I ended up cutting it down. What you do want to do is try to remember to when you're doing this specific part, when you're cutting the cake into 3 separate components, you want to reference the high and the mid and the low, and see how they work together, because sometimes there are, like I said, resonated frequencies that weren't there in the initial sound that you had made, and putting them together, sometimes the sounds, the frequencies overlap, and they tend to make a very odd resonating frequency in between those overlapping sounds, which is one of the main reasons why I have been cutting down a lot of the sound portions like these that are more towards the high portion. What else? That's pretty much it. So this is what it came out to be. Pretty nice. And then after I routed out to kick, final kick. So yeah, so all this was just routed out to this specific one, and it ended up coming out like this. Okay, so I once again rendered it out, just specifically the talk, the body, and the tail, and came out with this one. So, oh yeah, it's these are demos, so it will cut off. Alright, so this is what I have now. This is final kick. I ended up getting one of the talks from my old, from my current kicks that I have, and just taking out the low end and just barely giving it a little bit of character to the punch. As you can tell, my punches tend to be within this specific range of time, so that's kind of where I like it. A lot of kicks, there is a very distinct difference between the punch and the tail, and you can see that in the waveform. It doesn't usually blend all together. It's usually just punch and tail specifically separated. So I ended up doing that once again, bringing down some of the frequencies that I did not like, bringing up some of the low end, then after distorting it same exact way. This is actually the only distortion that I use when I'm trying to bring my sounds together. So so you can tell it gives it a little bit more crunchiness to it. After, once again, I'm bringing down certain frequencies that I didn't like before. So you can hear like a doo doo doo. I end up trying to remove that as best as possible. And then after, once again, I used Venom, just kind of do the same thing that Isotope Trash was doing, and bring all the sounds together again. I rendered that out. I mean, I routed that to the final one, and yeah. So this is what it came out to be. Once again, bringing up sounds that we're bringing up a crunchiness to it. Same thing with Venom. And this is what I do. Something that isn't usually done in kicks at all, but I tend to like to do this. I put an imager on it, and I try to make the high very not as mono. You know, I don't want the kick to be completely mono. I do want it to have a little bit of thickness to it. So I ended up doing pretty much separating the specific bands within their own frequency range. So I ended up doing this to the tail, kick, and as you can tell, it's kind of in the middle here. I don't usually have it towards this area, because it's negative phasing. It's not really a good type of phase. Gives it a very odd sound. So I try to just stay in the positive range for any sound that I make. It'll just give you problems with your mix, and yeah. So once again, trying to make that a little bit more stereo. And the end. Yeah. All together. And without it. Kind of just brings that the highest sounds a little bit more towards your ears. Then after maximize it, just kind of smush the sounds all together, and this is what it sounds like. And that was my 2-hour kick. And after I was just trying it out with my new sound bank that I was making. So created by TheSaraphim, my little thing here and there. Specific sounds that I like to use in my songs. So this is what I ended up making.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's Blueberry!
Ah!
Yeah, so hopefully you learned a little bit more on how I make the kicks, and hopefully you could interpret that into your own sounds. So yeah, I hope you liked it, and I hope you could grow from this.